Good morning, guys, and something a bit different for you today. I'm taking you to Bodmin Jail. Here we are inside Bodmin Jail in the basement. There's 6 floors to look at. We're starting at the very bottom. Now, it's got a reputation as this place as being one of the most haunted places in Britain. So you could say one of the most haunted places in the world, really. And I have to say, being the only one here, it is a little bit creepy. One person who was sent to prison here for 10 years is James Cook. They had a tip-off that I was counterfeiting money, and they walked into his house. This is James Cook. It's not the real James Cook, it's just a dummy, really. But they caught him with all his gear, and he was in the middle of making sixpences. He admitted he did it, obviously, and he could have spent time in this very cell. 10 years. Naughty, naughty man. Here you've got a whip, also known as the cat of 9 tails. And they used to flog people rather than execute them if it was just a petty crime like theft or something like that. They'd tie them to this, put them on the back of a cart, and the executioner, or whatever you call them, would give them a really good whack over the back in front of everyone as he paraded through town. Times have changed since then. They just do it behind closed doors now and get away with it. One of the punishments was the tread wheel, and basically they were sent to hard labour, and that was the hardest labour you had. It was basically like a tread wheel, and you're climbing up. It's like a big round thing. You're climbing. You're not moving anywhere. It's just turning around, but you're climbing up these steps for 15 minutes, and then you stopped and you did what they called, I can't remember, oakum picking, which is just like getting a piece of string and unattaching strands. Do that for 15 minutes and then back on the treadmill and do that for 8 hours. And they say that is the equivalent of walking up Snowdon Mountain 3 times a day. And they'd get that punishment possibly for a full month. As this guy did, James Arnold. He refused to work for the guy he was supposed to be working for. So he was sent here to do a month on the treadmill as punishment. This is what the tread wheel will have looked like. So they'd basically be standing on here and pushing down with the feet, and this would just turn round and round and round. That must have been hard work. That's William and James Lightfoot, who were both done for murder and hung outside this jail. And it attracted 20 to 25,000 spectators. It's quite sick, really, isn't it? To think people want to come and see a hanging. Here you go, this is the open picking, rope picking. That must have been quite tedious, to say the very least. This is a reconstruction of someone called James Hoskin, aged 20, who knifed someone and killed them. Now, I'm sorry, but he's not 20. He's not 20. He's a lot older than 20. Now, executions were supposed to be there to, to put people off committing crimes, but it actually turned into a form of entertainment. He wasn't 20. He wasn't 20. Well, he was 20, but he doesn't look 20. That's not him. This is a story of somebody called John, who got caught. He stole a ram, a sheep, pretty much just cut all its insides out, took them home and ate them. Got caught. You know what he got for that? 15 years. 15 years in prison for that. Must have been a really nice ram. This story's so sick, I don't know if I can tell you it. This girl's called Elizabeth Cummings, and she murdered a baby. She got pregnant. She was a servant. She got pregnant by a male servant. She delivered the baby herself. She got labour pains. And as soon as it was born, it cried once. And then she tried to smother it. and then she whacked its head against the side of the crib twice. Not nice. Not nice at all. You hear about people going on hunger strike in prison. Now, until 1975, they could actually force feed them, and this is how they did it. But they've outlawed that now, which is why you get people on hunger strikes. That is Anthony Cock. Anthony Cock, age 37, he got charged with stealing 3 butts of bees. Why would you steal a bee's butt? He stole 3 of them. He got into a lot of trouble for that. What a weirdo. So all these little exhibitions are actually in cells. This is a typical cell. It wouldn't have been quite as nice as this back then. It wouldn't have had a light. It wouldn't have had a nice smooth floor, I wouldn't have thought. But it gives you a good idea of the size. Well, it doesn't, not on camera, does it? It gives me a good idea. It's about 12 foot by 7 foot. It's quite cosy really, but no window, you'd get a bit of a draft. This is William Hocking, and he got caught having sex with animals. Having sex with his livestock. How do you get caught? How do you get caught, really? And in them days, anyone who did it, who got caught, was sentenced to death, because it was seen as bad a thing as homosexuality. Yet it was only for men. Women didn't get sentenced to death because they just didn't think women did that kind of thing. I doubt they did, really. Do people do that? Really? And here's a nutter called Anne Jeffries. She was known as a changeling. She said she could turn into different animals. Right. Anyway, she ended up in prison for something. And they stopped feeding her. They refused to feed her, but she never lost any weight. And she said it's because the pixies used to come through the night to feed her. I'm not believing it. I'm not believing that one. One of the rules in the prison was that every prisoner is allowed a bath every 3 months. I think that's pretty good going. It's more than I get. Now that would be an amazing find with a metal detector, look. Naval Prison, Bodmin. Fantastic. And they even found, when they were excavating this place, a mammoth's tooth. I don't really know what this execution pit is yet, but all these keys were found in the execution pit. And you've got loads more here. And loads more here. Why would all these keys be found in an execution pit? This shows you what the prisoners would eat. And if you take, for example, this day, daily, for breakfast they got bread and gruel. For dinner they got bread and gruel on a Sunday. And on supper, bread and gruel. Sundays must have been awful. What else did they have? Bread and potatoes, bread and porridge, bread and suet pudding. Nice. I'm not seeing any meat. Now these guys were all executioners, but this one in particular really interests me because that's Thomas William Pierpoint, and there's a film which you really should watch called The Last Hangman. He wasn't actually the last hangman, but that's what the film's called. But he used to live where I used to live in Thornton, and I used to drive past his house every day, and apparently he was a very kind man. There'd be a boy come up with a note saying, "Will you do this hanging?" And he had to reply, so he'd write yes or no on the note and give a really good tip to the boy who brought the note. But yeah, his house was right near my house, and it's supposed to be incredibly haunted. I think in the last 50 years or something, nobody has been able to stay in the house for more than 6 months. It just gets bought and then sold straight on, because everyone says it's haunted. But yeah, check out the film, The Last Hangman, it's very interesting. Well, I got that wrong. It's actually Albert Pierpoint who I'm talking about. So Thomas Pierpoint, I don't know, it must have been his dad, I can only imagine. But this is the guy I'm talking about. Now I don't see anything wrong with that story. A man tied a rope around his wife's waist, took her to market and sold her for 4p. That's alright, isn't it? I don't even know which Pierpoint I'm talking about. Thomas William Pierpoint was here from 1906 to 1946 and killed 296 people. And then this guy here is Henry Albert Pierpoint, 1901 to 1910. He killed 105 people. So they must have been brothers or something, they must have been related. And then there's the other Pierpoint in there, so that's 3 of them. So this is what a cell would have looked like in the 1700s. Pretty basic. I'd be happy with that, you know, quite comfortable. And this is what one looks like today. I think I'd prefer 1700s one, to be honest with you. I don't do TV, I don't need telly. This is Sarah, and she's a right cow. She killed her husband with arsenic. She poisoned his food. There he is, just dying. He's still alive at the moment, but he's just dying. Apparently he used to beat her up and he were a drunkard, not a very nice man at all, so she poisoned him to get rid of him. But the ironic thing is, when she killed him, he was drinking a glass of water. This is crazy. This is in 1824. There were 4 lads, young lads, playing toss a penny. Now, I don't know if you know how to play toss a penny, but I used to play it. It was, you threw a penny up to the wall, and the closest to the wall wins the money, right? And these lads are playing it, but they did it on a Sunday. You're not allowed to do things on a Sunday, as we've found out. You get turned into stone and all sorts of stuff. But these guys got fined 3 shillings and 4p each for doing exactly what I've done as a child of a similar age, and I got away with it. In fact, I think I earned a bit of money.
If you'd like to donate to Rays of Sunshine, simply click the link in the description below, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel.